Our breaking news this hour. A passenger plane has crash-landed into one of Moscow's main highways. The Defense Ministry says 8 people were on board. 2 of them have been killed, and at least 3 people have been injured. Well, on this breaking news story, we can now talk to Maria Finoshna, who's at the railway station where express trains head for Vnukovo Airport. Maria, what's going on where you are now?
Well, Kerry, I'm actually right now on board the express train going to the Vnukovo Airport, where we've just started moving. This is that very airport in just outside Moscow, in the western part of Moscow region, where the plane had expected to land earlier today, but eventually failed and crashed into the Kiev highway. Obviously, Kiev highway has been cordoned off following this catastrophe, and people are aware about that, and this is why more people have decided, I can see right now, to take the express train going to the airport. The journey takes just 35 minutes, and people, those who I've been able to speak to here on board, are saying that yes, we know what happened. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know that the plane crashed, and but we are going to the airport because we can't get more details. So people are having their journeys ahead of them, and they haven't changed their mind, and they're going right now to the airport. And I can see many people trying to call their friends and relatives and Vnukovo information desk and press services to get more details, but that's quite problematic right now. And also I can see many journalists on this train as well trying to get to the scene of the catastrophe. But I have to say that this plane, this express train going to the Vnukovo Airport, was expected to depart at 6 p.m. Local time here in Moscow, and as far as we can see, the trains are going according to their normal schedule. So the latest we are hearing from the Interior Ministry of Russian Federation is that at least 2 people have been killed in this catastrophe, but of course these figures are not the latest, and we are expecting the situation to change.
And Maria, obviously you say you're on board the train. I mean, what are the other passengers saying, and how concerned are they about what's happened? You say they've heard about it. Many of them must have been going towards the airport, going on holidays on planes themselves.
Absolutely. I'm actually a little bit surprised to see how calm people here on board are. Of course, most of them who are right now going to the airport are off for their New Year holidays, and I mean, there are 2 groups of people here: those with winter equipment like snowboards and skis, and those who are going to the beach areas everywhere in the world. But most of those who I've been able to speak to here are actually calm, because they say it's too early anyway to panic, because we have at least 1 day ahead of us, so we will not be late for New Year. So people are not panicking at all, and at the same time I'm hearing that they're talking to their friends and relatives, and it seems to me that their friends and relatives who are at home are actually more concerned about what's going on and what's going to happen than passengers themselves.
Okay, Maria Finoshna, for now, thank you. Well, earlier we spoke to an eyewitness, Alexander Usoltsev, at the scene of the incident. This is what he told us.
I'm now in the Kievskaya highway. It's closed for traffic. There is a lot of firemen, policemen with lights. The plane crushed, and it's like crushed into pieces. It crushed, I suppose, in 3 or 4 pieces. Parts of like shambles are lying, occupying half of the highway, and there are a lot of firemen just collecting the rubbish.
Well, we have some background on the plane that crashed, and the company operating it. The airliner is a Russian-made Tupolev 204. The model was designed at the end of the 1980s, but the plane involved was built just 4 years ago, we understand. Well, throughout its operational history, it has never been in an incident involving fatalities. But there was one crash landing before today. That was back in March 2010. And the plane that crash-landed today is operated by a Russian charter company, Red Wings, which is owned by Russian billionaire Alexander Lebedev. He, of course, also owns some Russian and British media outlets. Well, just to repeat our breaking news story here on RT. A passenger plane has crash-landed into one of Moscow's main highways. The Defense Ministry says 8 people are on board, 2 of them have been killed. At least 3 people have been injured, and the Russian Emergency Service says all 8 people on board were members of the crew. The Red Wings plane overshot the runway while attempting to land at the city's Vnukovo airport. These are the first pictures we've had of that incident. It was reportedly on its way from the Czech Republic. Some sources are suggesting a pilot error or plane malfunction may have been the cause. Well, our colleagues from a Russian-language news channel spoke to a witness of the crash landing who helped one of the injured. Here's what he had to say.
At that time, and this was about 20 minutes ago, I was driving along the highway. I was driving toward Moscow, and I saw this accident with my own eyes. What I was able to see was, at the end of the runway, there is a trench that separates the runway from the Moscow-Kiev highway. So the airplane overshot the runway and hit the trench with the nose, and the nose broke off approximately at the place where they have business class, and there was one person who dropped out of the plane on the Kiev highway, and the front wheel also broke off. So we helped carry one person. We caught a taxi and asked people to leave the taxi cab, and then we put this person in the cab and took him to hospital.
Now we have Oleg Smirnov, a pilot who may have been a witness to this. What do you think could have been the cause of this crash, in your opinion?
At this point, it is too early to talk about the reasons for this accident. A commission will be formed by the Civil Aviation Authority.
And as a pilot, I mean, what would you have been doing when this plane was coming in to land?
Parts of samples are lying, occupying half of the highway, and there are a lot of firemen.
Could you please repeat the question?
The rubbish.
Just to repeat that question to Oleg Smirnov, where we're talking through an interpreter here, a Russian pilot, what would you have been doing when this plane was coming in to land?
In order to land in an empty plane, this is kind of special situation when you land with no passengers, and you have to prepare carefully for that. It's a somewhat different thing compared to a plane loaded with passengers. In this case, the airplane was very light, no weight, no passengers, so you need the right approach, right speed, and the right mode of work for the engines.
We understand from the pictures we can see that the plane has broken into 3 pieces. I mean, in your experience, what do you think could have caused this crash?
The commission that has been established will look into this matter. There may be different reasons. It overshot the runway, This indicates that its speed was too high to stop at the right point. Second, conditions, weather conditions. What was the wind like at the time? It is very important, very crucial. And the third factor, that it had no passengers, it was light. All these factors could contribute in a negative way to the landing.
And how much training do pilots go through for this kind of thing? How much emergency training do they have?
With Tu-204 captains and second pilots, they have to go through a lot of training, This is a big plane. It may carry up to 200 passengers. So training is very thorough, very scrupulous, and it takes a long period of time because you need to study both theory and practical training with a real plane. Especially captains, they're very well prepared people with a lot of experience landing on other planes, and they have a lot of flight hours, a lot of flight experience.
What kind of safety systems would be on board?
Tu-204, their safety systems are similar to those they have on Boeings, and they're no different from Boeings and similar planes.
And what about technical upgrades and maintenance? Would that be as good as, I suppose, Western run airlines, for example?
As far as I know, and I don't know much about this particular type of plane, this plane has regular technical maintenance, and this case was no exception. A plane cannot take off without a proper technical inspection. There is a very strict rule about that.
Okay, Oleg Smirnov, thank you very much for joining us here on RT. Well, we can now talk to Maria Finoshina, who has been on the express train heading to Vnukovo Airport. Maria, what's happening now?
Well, Kerry, we've been hearing from Vnukovo information desk that most of the flights, actually all of the flights expected to depart from or arrive to Vnukovo Airport in outside Moscow will be rerouted, but passengers that were expected to depart from this airport are actually right now with me on board the express train going to that airport, and they haven't yet decided what to do. Haven't actually. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it's quite noisy because I'm on board the express train. Well, we've been able to speak to passengers here on board. Actually, the train is packed, but I cannot say for sure whether it is connected to the catastrophe that happened earlier today in Moscow, because it's New Year Eve and people are off to different parts of the globe actually for holidays. There are people who are going to snowboard and skiing in Europe and actually in Russia as well, or to Thailand and other beachy places around the globe. And yes, they are quite calm, and they say the journey to the airport will take just 20 minutes, so we will know when we arrive there. And I'm actually surprised how calm people are, but they are trying to call their relatives and friends to get more details on what happened and what they have to do right now. And also they're calling Vnukovo Airport information desk, but it's quite problematic because too many people are simultaneously, I guess, trying to do the same.
And indeed, as you say, you are on the train with other passengers. I mean, how concerned are they by what's happened? You say they've heard by now what's happened ahead of them, and they must have had holiday plans and planes following.
Yeah, exactly. It is New Year's, and people are supposed to be happy, and actually they are happy. I can see just right in front of me a group of young people, like 3 guys and 1 girl, and they're going, as far as I can understand, to snowboard to Russia, as they told me, and they are happy there right now, as I can see, drinking something definitely not spectacular. So people are not concerned at all, what I can see here. Actually, those who are calling them from home, like relatives and friends, they're telling them, have you heard the plane had crashed in Moscow today? Do you know that this is the airport, the very airport you are going to depart from? Are you concerned? But it seems to me that their relatives and friends are actually more concerned than the passengers themselves, surprisingly.
Okay, Maria Finoshna, thank you for now. Well, earlier we spoke to an aviation expert, Yuri Karash, who told me the model of plane that crash-landed today is very reliable generally.
I'm now in Kyiv highway. It's closed with traffic. There is a lot of firemen, policemen with lights. The plane crashed, and it's like crushed into pieces. It crashed, I suppose, in 3 or 4 pieces. Parts of like samples are lying, occupying half of the highway, and there are a lot of firemen just collecting the rubbish.
Well, here's some background now on the plane and the company operating it. The airliner is a Russian-made Tupolev 204. The model was designed at the end of the 1980s. But the specific plane involved in this crash was built just 4 years ago, we understand. Well, throughout its operational history, this model of aircraft has never been in an incident involving fatalities, but there was one crash landing before today. That was back in March 2010. Now, the plane that crash landed today is operated by Russian charter company Red Wings, which is owned by Russian billionaire Alexander Lebedev. These photographs, these pictures here were broadcast on a Russian news channel which we have access to. Of course, Lebedev also owns Russian and British media outlets. Well, just to repeat our breaking news story, a passenger plane has crash-landed into one of Moscow's main highways. The Defense Ministry says 8 people were on board. 2 of them have been confirmed dead. Emergency services say the other 6 were injured. The 2 people who died were reportedly in pilots' uniforms. Well, the Russian Emergency Service says all 8 people on board were members of the crew, no other passengers. The Red Wings plane overshot the runway while attempting to land at the city's Vnukovo airport. It was reportedly on its way from the Czech Republic. Some sources are suggesting pilot error or plane malfunction may have been the cause. There are also reports that the system responsible for the accuracy of the plane's approach to the runway was damaged. These are unconfirmed reports, but we'll get more as we get it. Well, earlier I spoke to an aviation expert, Yuri Karash, who told me the model of plane that crash-landed today is generally very reliable.
Tupolev 204 is a fairly reliable aircraft. 73 pieces have been produced so far, and 52 are still in service. And so far there was only one hull loss accident which happened 2 years ago in 2010, and it was not because of some hardware malfunction, if I can say so. It was not because of the aircraft, but it was pilot's error. So they were using the wrong GPS. Well, they were using the GPS equipment not certified for the precision landing. So they just crashed approximately 1 mile before the runway. So as I said, it was pilot's error. As about today's accident, Tupolev 204 could carry more than 200 passengers. So it's quite unusual that there were only 8 passengers on board of such a big aircraft as Tupolev Tu-204.
Well, RT's Alexei Yaroshevsky is with us now in the studio. Alexei, what do you make of it?
Well, it's really interesting to see what the investigation results will show, because as Yuri Karash just said, it's very untypical of a plane, such a big plane, to have only 8 people on board. Maybe this was just a service flight bringing pilots from one location to another belonging to the Red Wings company. But as we know, for now, and it's just been confirmed by the Health Ministry, 3 people have now been confirmed killed. The previous reports, all the previous reports stated that there were 2 people killed. Now another person was reported dead in this disaster, and this is the first time that this kind of plane, this kind of aircraft is involved in some kind of fatal incident. Before that, all the Tupolev Tu-204 planes were flying with no problems, and there was only one crash landing just 2 years ago, but there were no fatalities nor very many injuries. It was just an incident which was reported, but nothing serious. This time, of course, it's a different story. We are waiting for more reports, but we do know for now that the Vnukovo airport, where this accident happened, has now been closed off. No planes are allowed to land there, and they're all being redirected to Sheremetyevo airport in the north of the capital. The highway where the parts of the plane are still located, where are still scattered, is partially blocked off, cordoned off by the emergency ministry workers, and the traffic is immense there. Obviously, many people have been trying to leave Moscow today to go to their country houses, and that's why the traffic is immense there. We are hoping certainly that Maria Finoshina will be there. Our reporter will be there in a very short while, and she will be able to tell us more from the site, from the ground, of where this disaster happened. But I'd like to remind that the plane itself landed, according to the Interior Ministry, and after that, for some reason, rolled off the runway and crashed into the Kiev highway just next to the Vnukovo airport in southwest of Moscow.
And we're getting some latest pictures here from the scene. We can see emergency services, it looks like, forcing their way into one of the exit doors of the plane. I mean, these services would be prepared for anything, wouldn't they?
Certainly. The fact that it's New Year time already doesn't mean that the emergency services can rest. In fact, the New Year's time is always comes with different sort of accidents. Not, of course, plane crashes. It never happened before, but certainly all the household things happening, all the fires and everything. And obviously, this is an airport, so the security services have to be ready there 24/7. So this is just the case. I guess after the plane crash happened, after this incident happened, the emergency services were there in just a matter of minutes. Let's just hope that there will be no more casualties in this tragic accident, because we know that 3 people were delivered to hospitals in Moscow, reportedly in a very, very severe condition. So for now, we know that 3 have been killed, 3 in severe condition, and there were only 8 people on board.
And indeed, we can see, as we speak there from those pictures, emergency and investigators boarding the plane, presumably looking for survivors as well, still at this stage. I mean, what kind of a history of accidents do you know that this type of aircraft has?
This aircraft had only 1 crash landing 2 years ago. This is the first time, and it's already been confirmed, that we have fatalities in this particular incident. This is the first time that the Tupolev Tu-204, generally very, very reliable plane, has been involved in something like that. I do remember, though, a couple of years ago, one of the Russian airlines had a similar accident when the plane landed in Novosibirsk in Siberia. Everyone started clapping, as people usually do when they land. And after that, it rolled off from the runway into a set of buildings just next to the runway. That particular airplane crash had some survivors. Almost half of the plane survived. The people who were sitting in the front part of the plane were killed. I don't remember exactly how many people were killed back then, but this looks pretty much similar, with one major difference, that this time the plane was empty, which is very interesting to know why it was empty, because we've already had contacts with aviation experts who said, landing an empty plane, which doesn't carry 200 passengers, as the Tupolev Tu-204 is capable of, is much harder than landing a fully boarded plane.
And from what we can see from these pictures just coming in here, I mean, the emergency services would have quite well-advanced contingency plans, wouldn't they?
Certainly. I mean, they are prepared. They know what to do in these kind of situations, even though the situation is unusual. We never had anything like that in Moscow. And you can see the plane, actually, as I've said earlier, it broke into 3 pieces. Obviously, the emergency services are working hard there, hopefully trying to find some more survivors on the plane.
Okay, well, we can now cross to RT's Maria Finoshna, who was heading for Vnukovo Airport. Maria, what's going on where you are now?
Hey, Kerry, I'm on board the express train heading to the Vnukovo Airport outside Moscow, and I have been able to speak to some of the passengers who are now with me going to the airport, and I have to say that most of them haven't been actually aware about what happened earlier today, and I've told them about the catastrophe, and I'm actually surprised how optimistic they are even after that, after knowing what happened. And the first reaction in most of the cases were, oh, thank God that I didn't take the car to go to the airport and I took the train. It's safer and faster, and people actually are trying to look at the bright side. This is what I can see here. There are 2 groups of people going to winter kind of vacation for New Year holidays and to the warm places, to the beaches, to the oceans, and they just finished their work and they are supposed to start celebrating already, and actually they're in a very good mood. And just in front of me there is a group of young people, and I've just spoken to them, and they say until they know exactly what happened and until they know what's going to happen to their particular flight, they will not start panicking. We've been hearing that most of the flights expected to depart from and to arrive to Vnukovo Airport will be derouted, but people are not panicking, and I'm surprised. But at the same time, we are hearing that relatives and friends are calling them and asking what's going on, and they seem to be more concerned about the situation than the passengers themselves.
Indeed, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it, as you say? I mean, are they not concerned at all going towards the airport? I mean, they may have been taking following planes on their way for their holidays.
Well, it wouldn't be actually right and correct 100% to say they're not at all concerned, but as far as I understand, they reconciled with the situation. They understand they're right now on the train, and the journey to the airport will take a while, and they cannot change anything. And maybe they are just waiting actually for more details to come, and they don't want to panic until there is no actually a good reason, and maybe they think it's not yet the right moment to start panicking. But of course they're not happy, they're not laughing, they're quite sad, but they're actually waiting for the time for arrival to the airport to know more actually about what happened and what is going to happen to their flight and how are they going to get to the places they are expected to go.
Okay, Maria Finoshna, thank you indeed for that update. We'll have more on this as we get it here on RT.